What's up, guys? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. Today for you, we're going over UFC Vegas 80. We had Grant Dawson taking on Bobby Green. Some other decent fights on that card. I'm going to mix in the matchmaking video in with the recap just because there weren't too many fighters. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally I'm around like 8 to 10. So I didn't feel like it needed its own video, but we'll get into this. I didn't have a video out for this last week because the audio file ended up corrupting. I couldn't be bothered to re-record it, so there's nothing there. I still put my picks out on Twitter, and I had no bets for this card at all. Nothing really stuck out to me, so I just ended up staying away. But pick-wise, I went 6-4. I forgot to put up the check marks, but I missed on Demopoulos. I thought Murata won, so that one was a little weird. I missed on Mendonça. To be honest, I hate Nate Maness down a weight. He always looks like he's about to die, so I thought he was going to get bonked, and he didn't. Mendonça refused to do anything other than go for that leg lock, knee bar, heel hook, whatever he was looking for, and he was getting his face pounded in. He got knocked out probably 3 different times. It was brutal. He wouldn't stray from that game plan, and it was not working. I'll say which ones I hit too. So obviously, we hit on Aldrich, Orichi Lang. Like I said, I picked Murata. I thought she won the fight. It ended up being round 2 that swayed it, but I still thought Murata won that. Missed on Maness. I picked Mendonça. We hit on Kovalkiewicz. I wanted to play her subline, but my book didn't put it out until way too late, so I just didn't end up playing it. Linz Kutalaba, that ended up getting scrapped. We didn't get to see that fight. Hernandez, Algio, that one I was back. I wish I could have talked about that one because I was really interested in this fight because I thought my thought point, or I don't even know, my thoughts on this fight were, it was just Hernandez early I thought was going to cause a lot of trouble for Algio. I thought he was going to be able to get inside and land some big shots, do good work to the body, but he was almost too patient. I don't know, he was waiting for Algio to throw something so he could counter almost, and I mean he had to engage, so he did end up going forward for a lot of the fight, but it felt like he was waiting. He was a little bit too patient almost, and at distance Algio was just able to pick him apart. Algio actually looked really good. It was a really good performance. I was super split on that one. That's why I didn't end up betting it. It was either, for me, it was Hernandez gets the finish in 1 or 2, or does enough damage in 1 and 2 to win, or Algio goes 2 and 3 to win the decision, or goes crazy in 3 and finds the finish. But it ended up just being a sick performance from Algio. His distance management was perfect. He even dropped Alex Hernandez at one point, so it was just a great performance from him. We hit on Dober. That one felt super obvious. Ricky Glenn, I don't know if he has the durability anymore at this age. 2 fights in a row, he's gotten knocked out now. We hit on Buckley. Great performance from Buckley too. I was very impressed. Hit on Pfeiffer. And I picked Grant Dawson. Bobby Green gets the 30-second knockout. Incredible. What can you say? He walked out to Sexy Red and then slept Grant Dawson in 30 seconds. Like, what more could you ask for? It was the perfect way to end the night. But, so you can see 6-4, because that Kutalaba fight ended up falling out. You can see the total record there. And then still 16-13, plus 4.1 units for the Savage Rounds parlay. There was none last week just because I didn't get the video up. And I didn't have any bets regardless. So, to be honest, I don't know what I would have done. But we get into the awards. I didn't really... There wasn't one that stuck out to me as fight of the night, so I kind of ended up skipping over that. And I've got 4 performance of the nights, 2 winners, and then 2 bad nights. So, performance of the night... I feel like this was probably... I didn't see which fight the UFC picked for fight of the night, but I just didn't like one. I don't even know if they did. And then performance of the night felt pretty straight up to me. I'll just go through them. It was the 4 really good finishes. Nate Maness, Drew Dober, Joe Pfeiffer, and Bobby Green. I know... the only one I would kind of lean towards for fight of the night, you could go as Algio Hernandez, but it wasn't too much like pushback from Hernandez, really, so I don't know, it didn't feel like it deserved it. But the big winners on the night, I'm going Joaquin Buckley. I think everyone was super impressed with his performance. I think a lot of people thought he would win, but he would be finding the knockout, or Morono would be outpointing him. He looked pretty solid over 3 rounds and was able to get it done. It was a very impressive performance, and I'm very interested to see what they give Buckley next. I've got a fun fight for him, or at least an idea, depending on how a fight goes coming up. But the other winner for the night has to be Bobby Green. Comes in, knocks out a dude who is a minus 500 favorite in 30 seconds nonetheless. So literally, he didn't take any damage, couldn't have gone better. He's in the rankings for the first time now. I believe he debuts in the rankings at number 13. So yeah, Grant Dawson's now at 15. I think he might have been. It says he dropped 5 spots. I don't know what he did to be up at 10, but he's 15 now. I'm kind of surprised he's still in the rankings, to be honest. And the matchmaking for him was a little bit weird because I couldn't figure out if I wanted him to have another fight in the rankings with somebody who else is losing, or somebody who's also losing, and kind of whoever wins gets to stay, whoever loses has to fight outside the rankings, or if he, with only 1 win inside the rankings, it was 15 ranked Damir Ismagulov, does he have to defend his spot now? I don't know. So I was a little bit stuck there. Bad nights, Mateus Mendonça. I mean, what was the game plan? I don't even know. Once you start getting rocked going for leg locks, you got to give it up. And it cost him. He ends up getting brutally knocked out 3 times in the same fight. And obviously Grant Dawson. I don't know. It's hard to say it was a bad night because he really didn't get to go and do anything, but just the circumstances around it. That was supposed to be his main card fight night in the UFC. This was supposed to be his spot to get the win, minus 500 favorite versus a pretty fan favorite name in Bobby Green. It was going to be a good win for him if he could go out there and do it and dominate or even get the finish, but it did not go his way. And now he's number 15 and possibly has to defend his rank. Next up, like I said, I only had 5 for matchmaking. We're going Drew Dober, Joaquin Buckley, Joe Pyfer, Grant Dawson, Bobby Green. Pretty self-explanatory. None of the lower fights, I didn't want to make a match for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She'll get someone, and I don't care. Drew Dober, I think this could be a pretty fun fight. He was on a good little streak. He gets brutally knocked out by Matt Frevola. Frevola's in the rankings now. Drew Dober comes back. Good performance against Ricky Glenn. He's calling out all these big names. I don't know if a win against Ricky Glenn, although it was a good knockout, deserves another shot in the rankings right away. I think he needs at least one more win. And a guy who also is kind of in that position was doing really good, lost, got a win. And I don't know if that win gets him a ranked shot yet, but I think you match up Joel Alvarez with Drew Dober. Winner gets a ranked shot. I think this fight would be sick. Joel Alvarez, we know, 6'3" at lightweight. He's got some nasty Muay Thai. The leg kicks are insane, and we know how good his jiu-jitsu is and his grappling. So that would be very interesting to see how Drew Dober deals with that, and then the power of Drew Dober coming back at him. It would be interesting. I'd be very, very interested in this fight, and I think it would be a fun one too. Fireworks for sure. This one would not go the distance. 0% chance. And like I said, winner gets a shot at the rankings, I believe. Next up, Joaquin Buckley. Great performance versus, I can't even remember, Alex Morono, the Great White. There's a fight coming up, and so he's moved down to welterweight. He's on a really good run. Alex Morono also on a really good run, loses to Ponzinibbio, and then gets... Who did he fight after Ponzinibbio? He got a win after Ponzinibbio, if I'm not... he beat Tim Means. He submitted Tim Means. And then he comes out. So he was getting close to the rankings, then loses, and then tried to get back. So these guys were kind of around the same spot in the rankings, I'd say. So maybe not a ranked fight for Joaquin yet. Maybe 1 or 2 more. I'd say probably 1 would be good. There's a fight coming up where I think there's 2 guys that could be deserving. We've got Nicholas Dalby taking on Gabriel Bonfim. Bonfim, the young up-and-comer, undefeated in the UFC, all finishes. If he beats Nicholas Dalby off hype and off what Nicholas Dalby, the little run he's on, I think that would warrant a fight versus Joaquin Buckley for the ranked shot. And if Nicholas Dalby is able to continue this run and stop the hype train, the up-and-comer that is Gabriel Bonfim, I also think that would warrant a fight with Joaquin Buckley for a ranked opportunity. And whoever it is, I think that would be a pretty fun fight. Nicholas Dalby may not be like the most brutal knockout artist, but he's a dude that can put a pace on you and can bloody up your face if you're not defensively sound and if you're not landing back on him. So I think this would be, either way, a pretty interesting fight, and another spot where the winner of this fight, I think, could possibly get a shot at the rankings. Next up, Joe Pyfer. He called out some big names. He hasn't lost in the UFC yet. A good finish versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. And I can't remember the names he called out, but it was some big guys. I don't know if we're quite in the rankings yet. One more fight, I believe. One more fight, and then we're in the rankings. He says he's kind of on the Sean O'Malley wavelength. I'll fight these top guys once I'm getting paid to fight these top guys. He's not scared of them. It's just he wants to be compensated for the risk he's taking, which I totally think is fair. And the UFC seemed like they were down to renegotiate his contract, so I think they get that done. He has another fight where, depending on the situation, the winner could get a shot at the rankings. We go Brad Tavares. He's a guy that's been in and around that rankings for a long time, and when he's not in the rankings, he's just outside. He's coming off of a win against Chris Weidman. It was a good performance, although it was Chris Weidman coming off of a leg break, and he's over 40 now. But, he's always going to be in that 16 to 25 range until he gets on some big losing streak. And I think this would be the next step up. He's fought Gerald Meerschaert, or for Joe Pyfer, he's fought Gerald Meerschaert, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I don't know level-wise if that's flipped or the same, I don't know, but Brad Tavares would be a step up from both of those guys, I do believe. He's got great takedown defense, a steady striker, and it would just be the most well-rounded, tough test for Joe Pyfer. It would be his toughest test in the UFC so far, I do believe. And I'm here for it. Next up, Grant Dawson. This was the one I said it was kind of weird because I didn't know, so he beats Damir Ismagulov completely dominantly. Damir was 15 at the time, I do believe, ranking-wise. Grant Dawson takes that rank, fights somebody outside the rankings, gets his rank taken. He's still in the rankings somehow. Grant Dawson is 15 now. I don't know. Do you make him fight somebody else that's lost in that 10 to 15 area, or do you make him fight somebody that's coming up? I don't really know. I picked one of each. So I think if they want to keep him fighting within the rankings, Jalen Turner's on a 2-fight losing streak, controversially to Matthias Gamrot, and then Dan Hooker put on a sick performance, and Jalen Turner was looking good early too, so great fight there. Dan Hooker pulls it off. Jalen Turner's now on a 2-fight losing streak, which is kind of crazy to think about. He's 12 or something, 11, something like that. So if they want to do this, I think that could kind of make sense, but it would also kind of logjam up that bottom of the rankings. It's hard. Does Grant deserve another ranked fight? He's beat Damir and then lost to somebody unranked. I don't know. And then the other option, it kind of depends on if he's able to get a win in his next fight. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Nazim Sadykhov. He has a fight coming up. Oh man, I just had it up. I wish I should know this. Let me pull it up. I was literally just looking at it. Let's see his Tapology. The Black Wolf. Oh, Slaviklaus. Vyacheslav Borchev. So he's fighting. I wouldn't say if Slaviklaus wins he deserves this spot, but especially if Nazim gets a finish, he would be undefeated in the UFC. And it's kind of hard because, again, Sadykhov, he may need a few more wins still. He hasn't fought the best guys yet. He's fought Terrence McKinney. He came in against somebody I can't remember, and now Vyacheslav. So it's not like he's fought elite competition, but I like Nazim, and I think this would be a sick fight, and I think he's really good. So I don't know. There's kind of two options here, and even if you don't like the Nazim one, you could pick somebody else. It was just kind of hard to find somebody deserving of a shot at the rankings, maybe. But I think there's two options. You go somebody losing in the rankings, which I think would be Jalen Turner. If you're fighting in the rankings, it probably has to be Jalen Turner. Or somebody outside the rankings on the come-up that's looking towards getting into the rankings. I picked Nazim, if he gets the win, obviously. And it would probably have to be a finish. Next up, Bobby Green. I closed my phone with my list. coming off of, like I said, the sexy red walkout, 30-second knockout. Couldn't have gone better. What can you say? Some people called him out. I don't think he called anybody out. He just said he wants to fight before the end of this year. I think he said he wants to fight in December. There's a guy who hasn't fought in quite some time, who's in the rankings. He is coming off. Oh man, see, I always look at this right before and then I forget. I gotta pull it up again. He's coming off of a win versus Brad Riddell. Renato Moicano. So he was on a good little streak. Damir Hadzovic, Jai Herbert, Alexander Hernandez. Then he gets the big fight. Short notice, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. 5 rounds. Takes on Rafael Dos Anjos. Gets absolutely torched. I was at that fight. It was brutal. But he did come back at the end. He was landing some good shots, but it was brutal. Rafael definitely won that fight. And then he comes out, gets the early finish versus Brad Riddell, who has not looked great. Renato's been in the rankings for some time. That fight was in November of last year. He was supposed to fight Arman Sarukian this past April. That fight ends up falling out. I don't know if I feel like he should be healthy by now, unless it was a big injury that I'm not aware of. But I think if they could get this done before the end of the year, this would be a really fun fight. Bobby Green, his first fight as a ranked contender, and Renato Moicano, a guy who hasn't fought a while, kind of needs to prove himself within these rankings. He's been in the rankings for a bit now, but he needs to prove himself within these rankings. But yeah, that was the last guy. We only had 5. Kind of smushed the recap and the matchmaking into one. This weekend we've got UFC Vegas 81, Sadiq Youssef taking on Edson Barboza. This is a banger. There's also some really good fights on this card in general. Let me pull up the fight card. We've got this main event, obviously, like I said, Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez. I cannot wait for that one. Andre Petroski stepping in on short notice to take on Michelle Pereira. Christian Rodriguez versus Cameron Simon. Terrence McKinney fighting. Chris Gutierrez fighting. There's some good fights, some good fighters on this card for sure. I will have the predictions and bets video out tomorrow. There's definitely some bets here. Some spots I really liked. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for the predictions. Drop a like and subscribe on this video. Peace.